Your mind is limitless. The possibilities are endless. Awaken Your Mind Magic shows you how you can dream limitlessly and live your life on a new level. Susan Kathleen speaks with ordinary people who are living extraordinary lives using the power of their mind. Abundance, prosperity, and success. There are no limits to what you can dream. Join Susan Kathleen on a journey into your dreams, making a difference and living life on your own terms. This is Awaken Your Mind Magic.
Hello and welcome everyone. My guest speaker today is Patti-Jo Grover, who comes from Maine in the U.S.A. Patti is known as the Goal Achievement Strategist. She studied business management techniques at the University of Maine and is a published author, a public speaker, consultant, coach, mentoring skills educator, mentor, and also has her own podcast, The Patti-Jo Grover Show. Welcome, Patti. It's great to have you with me today on Awaken Your Mind Magic.
Hey, Susan, thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to be able to communicate with people from the other side of the world. Fantastic. And it's all about getting the positive messages out there.
Thank you so much, Patti. I totally agree. And I know you, before we started recording, you said you were a little tired. And I'm in your tomorrow, so it's early morning here. It's bizarre, isn't it?
Yes.
Patti, I absolutely love what you stand for. And I would really appreciate to know more about how you awakened. What brought you from all the events in your life to where you are now?
Oh, I would say, Susan, I really only totally understood my purpose. I only got my mind wrapped around that about a year ago. But I'm going to have to go back and kind of explain things to you so that it'll make sense. I explain to people and I tell people that I had a childhood that most people couldn't believe, let alone conceive. And what I mean by that is that my father was an alcoholic and was abusive. And so we would have times in my household that were just ridiculous. Okay. He would not allow for my mother to dress nicely. She always had to wear like his old socks that were all stretched out. They wouldn't stay up. She always had to wear her hair in rollers or pin curls. You know, she couldn't wear makeup or anything like that. He wouldn't even allow her to drive a vehicle or get her driver's license. He would come home from work and it was time for him. He wanted beer and cigarettes. So he drove us to the store, sent her in the store to get the beer and cigarettes. He would park in a spot that he could see all the way to the beer cooler. She wasn't allowed to pick up her head or make conversation with anyone. If she did, when she came out to the car, I knew it was going to be a bad night at home. You know, that was just the way that it was. When I was 3 years old, my father came home from work one day and he was beating on my mother. He strangled her. He had her on the couch. He strangled her unconscious. And then he sent me, a 3-year-old, to the kitchen drawer to get a knife. At that time, my 16-year-old sister got on the phone and was calling the police. My 9-year-old brother, 12-year-old brother, because he's 9 years older than me, was grabbing at my father's legs, trying to catch him to keep him from getting to the drawer. So my father would kick him off and throw him off to the side, and my brother would go back to get to him. By the time he got to me to the drawer, he picked me up and threw me against the wall, got the knife out of the drawer, and my mother's still laying unconscious on the couch. He just got back to her when the police came through the door and took him away. So with that, now, and I'll go back to the story in a little bit on that. From that point, my mother did end up leaving my father. They ended up getting divorced. We lived in Connecticut at that time. Then we moved to Maine with some of my mother's family. My mother went to work at the Mental Health Institute. So it was the mental institution. And she worked 3 to 11 because it made better pay working that 3 to 11 shift. And then to make extra money so that we could have a house of our own rather than living with relatives, she started taking in patients from the mental institution into our home. So I grew up from the time that I was 5 years old all the way into high school. My mother had an adult boarding home. We were one of the first ones in our state. So I had patients that I lived with in our home that would scream, bang their head against the wall, would be rocking, that type of stuff. So, no other children would come over and spend any time at my house. I always had to go away. By the time I was 12, I had found 2 dead bodies in my home, just a few doors down from my own bedroom. I had to help feed, bathe, and medicate patients. So when I say it's something that most people couldn't conceive, it definitely wasn't a child situation. It wasn't a real place for children. And I don't say that, and I don't hold anything against my mother for that, because she only did the best that she could with what she knew. And looking back at it, the reason, and so my mother, that was my mother's second husband. Her first husband was also an alcoholic and abusive. And my mother didn't know any better and tried to find someone that would love her and be good to her. But my mother was 9 years old when her mother died of complications from childbirth of her 5th child. And my mother was only 9 at the time. So she went into foster care and living at a children's home. That at that time it was run by nuns, and then as soon as she was old enough, she got farmed out to go work on farms to earn her keep. So that she did the best that she knew how to with what she had. So I had, through all that, I had decided I did not want to have a life anything like I had grown up seeing and having at that point. So, I was always very into my education and studying hard and being involved in things. And I did as much as I could all the time to be out of the household. But what I didn't realize at the time, I was going to high school and beauty school at the same time my senior year. So I did that. So I graduated both about the same time. And after that, I went to work at different hair salons and went into management of a hair salon and did as much education and study as I could, so that I became a registered massage practitioner. And I worked for companies. I started doing education, and I went into the educational piece of, products, that hair care products, skin care products that these companies supplied. And you may be familiar with Matrix Essentials. I did education for Matrix. I learned all about their perms and hair colors. And I went into salons and taught beauticians how to use the products. And I would do classes on that they would come to the classes. I did that also with their skincare and cosmetics. And so I did that for a couple different companies. And then I decided I went to work also for S.M.A.R.T.E.R, which I worked at a skincare and cosmetic counter and did that, and started operating the store. I took over management of that store. And then from there, I also did management of a Bath and Body Works. So again, all with that type of product. Well, having my own salon, also doing that, it was a full service salon and spa. I had 6 girls working for me, and I decided I stopped doing the education piece and I created my own skincare line and cosmetic line. So I did all that and had that at my salon. And that's really, where all that came from. So from that, and being a self-employed though for a long time, my daughter then came to a point where, I need to start getting benefits and insurance, because self-employed people you don't really have a lot of benefits. And all the management stuff that I had done too, I had insurance from that. But having my own, I had to look at other things. So I did get positions with these companies for that. I also went to work for Avon Products Incorporated, when you're familiar with Avon, because that was all over the world. And I was a corporate employee. I managed over 400 women and taught them how to have the best sales and teach them how to sell the products, how to use the products, and how to grow their businesses. So with all that, that's where I took from and now I want to take all the stuff that I did and how much growth I had for myself in my different businesses with that. But again, now just a year ago, I put all these pieces together because I empower, educate, and encourage women to create better lives for themselves and their children because of what I went through as a child.
Betty, that is remarkable. What an incredible story.
But those pieces did not connect for me until just about a year ago. Because when I was working on it and trying to determine really what's my purpose, and I really uncovered it, and it really is. And I really believe I have no ands, ifs, or buts. I know that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I've been doing it for a few years now, with my coaching and with my books and everything. But I really hadn't dug that deep on my purpose, because my reason, what I was saying after I first wrote my book, is I was doing it for my grandchildren. Because really, when you think about it, what I say, Susan, is when children, as a grandparent or a parent, what's the best thing that you could do for a child? To me, the best thing you can do is teach them how to read. I mean, you can leave them cars and you can leave them money, that type of stuff. But really, what was the biggest impact that I could make on their lives? And I really thought about it, and I said, we want to try to keep our children and grandchildren from having to go through as many struggles as we did, and to try to make their lives easier and give them more value. So what I did is took everything that I did myself. I really dug down deep. And what did I do? How did I get from point A to point B? How did I get from the life? Because choices and decisions, I could have made many, many different ones that could have put me in a different place in life. I really could have. So that I really dug down deep and figured out all the steps that I did myself. And I put it into the book that I've written as a tool to goal achievement. And at the end of each chapter, I have assignments for people, and just broke everything down into the simplest form I could to be able to be used as a tool. And once people learn, because it is a system. So once people learn this system, they can reuse it over and over and over again. And this is something that will work for anyone between middle school to retirement.
Betty, I've actually studied and looked at your website and seen your very generous website, where there is a lot of information and huge amount of downloads that are for free. And that is a gift. Not many people are as generous as you. So that I commend you for, first and foremost. Secondly, I've been in the educational field for 40 plus years. I have an absolute passion for children and young adults, and actually seniors who, some of them are from England, that really shocked me, didn't even know how to read. They'd lived a life pretending they could, but they had never learned how to read. And this is in a first world country. So it's shocking. I appreciate so much what you say when you talk about teaching people to read as well. Many, many years ago, Dolly Parton contacted me in Africa when I was living in Africa.
Oh, my.
And she wanted my thoughts on what it was like to perhaps do what she was doing, because she's got this, it's an incredible gift that she gives, and it's a moving library where children learn to read, and she has a moving library for them. So you're on a par with her. And I remember thinking to myself, what an incredible way to teach people, because that, even in the Bible, they talk about you give somebody a fish and, well, they get to eat, but if you teach them how to fish, they can do that for life. And this is what you're doing with reading. This is wonderful. And it's intriguing for me to know that when you say only a year ago, you started to really awaken and realize you knew your purpose, but you went deep diving and understood why you chose to live the type of life you've lived to get to where you are. So many baby boomers do that. They sort of get to a stage and say, hold on, there is a reason I'm here. And you're an inspiration to all people who are at a certain stage in their lives where they, even now with COVID-19, where they're giving up and saying, I have no purpose. Tell us more about how your book has progressed and what its name is and how you've actually produced that, plus an incredible program for people.
Well, actually, Susan, let me tell you, when I first wrote my book, I went through a hybrid publishing company, and I won't say their name because it was quite a process going through them. They weren't necessarily easy to work with. There was a difficult situation. So once I got my book published, they actually are the ones who took care of the printing. They set up my Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million accounts. So it was all going through them. And so I got the book published and it was out there, and I paid for the artwork to be done and, the ISBN and numbers and all that stuff, and got the book out there. And I had a 2-year contract with them that they were supposed to be helping me with some marketing things and everything like that. Well, they ended up closing the doors and went out of business.
Oh.
And so then the book wasn't the orders weren't being fulfilled, and all those accounts got closed. And I had said, you know what? I'm not going to let this stop me. So I have just finishing up on my second edition, and it's going to be launching very, very soon. So it's the same artwork, but I've changed the subtitle. So the title is Living Outside the Box. The first book was called the subtitle was Solving the Jigsaw Puzzle That Is Your Life. Now, with the different things I've had to do with my book, it's still living outside the box, but it's now the Goal Achievement Strategist Guide to Reaching Your Full Potential. So, and I've changed that up because I had to change the things to have their logo taken off and everything like that. So I share a little bit in the second edition about that story because I am all about not quitting. Do not quit. Don't give up. If you have a dream or goal, you need to find a way to get there. So I teach people the S.M.A.R.T.E.R plan, and I teach them how to do that. And so everybody has heard of the S.M.A.R.T.E plan, anybody that's ever been in business, but the S.M.A.R.T.E.R means it's editable and revisable because life happens to every single one of us, whether we're ready for it or not. So don't let things stand in your way.
So what is SMART stand for?
S is systematic, M is measurable, A is achievable, R is relatable, and then T is time-based. So that's the SMART. And then the ER is editable and revisable.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
How long does it take to do this program?
Well, the book itself, so if somebody's reading my book, they can read the book in like 2.5 hours. They can read the book. But to go through and do all the assignments and everything, you're talking probably a week to do that, do the book, to put together. If you're doing that's not the program. That's not any course or workshop. That's just using the book as a tool that I've written it to be. So but if somebody goes through and follows my process, they will have a plan laid out for them to achieve their dreams and goals by the time that they're done the process of going through the book.
That's fantastic. As a dream builder coach myself, I understand designing a dream. And you teach this, having spoken to us about this. Share how you reach your dreams.
Okay, well, how I tell everybody, and the most important thing is we have to have a curiosity that's greater than all of our fears. So you have to be curious so that you allow yourself to dream. And I believe everyone can do this. Everyone can achieve their dreams and goals. But you have to know where you're going to start from to be able to get to where you want to be. And that's really, really important, because if I were going to your house, Susan, if I asked you directions and if you didn't know where your place was, I couldn't get to you if I didn't know where you were. So that's what it's all about. We got to start and really dig deep and figure out where we are beginning from for me to be able to help somebody get to where they want to be. But the dream part of it, for people to be able to dream, I teach people sensory vision. And I know you talked about doing dream boards, and I do dream boards, but I go into that even further, and I teach sensory vision. I teach people so when they close their eyes, they feel it, not just physically, but they can emotionally feel as if they have achieved that dream. They can see it, they can feel it, they can smell it, they can taste it, they can touch it. Because if you can take your purpose and a real understanding of your why and add that sensory vision to that, it makes you unstoppable. It really
I agree
does.
with you there, and I've seen the most incredible results myself. So it is a reality, listeners. It does happen, and as Patti says, you can't get to your dream. You've got to come from your dream, just like learning where somebody lives. So I'm going to have to say to everybody, make sure that you know your directions and be very firm about them, because sometimes when you ask for the universe for directions and you don't ask properly, you might just go along the wrong path. So be sure.
Yes. Yes. I say sometimes it's like I help people to create their own personal GPS system.
I like that. I've never heard that before, and I enjoy that. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
What is a conquering skills educator?
Well, so conquering skills means right from helping people to articulate and put it down and understand, really digging deep into what it is they want, who it is they are, what skills they need to grow, some things they may need to learn, so really articulating all these pieces. So they have to articulate, then they have to create that smarter plan and go through everything, all that, how, what, where, when, and why, and really, really do the smarter, go through, think of things systematically, measurably, right through the whole smarter plan that way. And then once they do that, then they need to activate the plan that they've just created. But they have to do that with curiosity, because you got to have curiosity to begin with, right? You have to have courage, because you're going to come up against things, because life happens to every single one of us, whether we're ready for it or not. And you have to have consistency. And those are conquering skills. And I teach people how to have them and to work their plan from beginning to putting it together. So from dream weaving all through the process of achieving.
Do you work with women mainly or men and women?
Primarily women, and I have been hired by some parents to work with children as young as middle school and high school, so that they get a better understanding of who it is they are. They become empowered to make better choices when it comes to what courses they're going to take in high school, to line them up for whatever they choose to take if they choose to go to college. You know, many people now are really starting to think of the fact that they don't want to go to college and get out of college and be $250,000 in student debt, have a job for a year, if they can get a job in the profession that they went to school for, but they have it for a year and find out they hate it. You know, the parents aren't wanting their children to go through that anymore. And kids aren't, because now knowing, again, if you have all that student loan debt and you can't get out from underneath that, you know, you're talking graduating from college and not being able to afford a decent car or putting a roof over your own head. So, you know, it is a serious thing.
It certainly is. And this is where I really, I totally empathize with your thoughts and the fact that you believe that it is imperative that children learn what they truly love before they get into this debt. So you're doing a great job there.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, tell me, Patty, I've seen that you have a golf institution and it's a place called Legacy Farms. Tell me more about that.
Well, my husband and I, we like to play disc golf, and disc golf is frisbee golf. So that we own 25 acres of land here on our property that we have an 18-hole disc golf course on. We love this sport ourselves. We brought it to this area of the state because there really weren't any courses here. We used to own another property like an hour and a half south of us, and from that we owned a KOA campground franchise. And from where that campground was, there were within a half an hour, there were 27 courses right within a half an hour. So they were all right there. And so a lot of people would stay and come camp and go play. Well, now we're an hour and a half north and there aren't as many places. And it's something that we love ourselves, because disc golf is a sport that anybody from the age of 2 to 92 can get out and play. It's much more affordable than the ball golf for people to get out and recreate with their family. You get out in fresh air, enjoy nature. It's a wonderful thing.
Sounds great. I've never heard of that. I'm going to have to come and visit you one day when we're allowed to travel. Betty, I'm curious. As a little girl of 3, that terrible time where your extremely abusive alcoholic father told you to go and get a knife, can you share with us what you went through then?
Well, because I knew that he wasn't kidding. You know, I knew he wasn't kidding. I was going to do anything that I could to keep him from getting there and getting the knife. So I did. That was just my automatic reaction. I that's all I could do, is I could go and try to keep him from getting in the drawer. That's all I could do. And there was no second thoughts, no anything. I just knew that's what I had to do.
With your brother as well, the two of you.
My brother, and I moved with my mother after the situation and moved to Maine. And so there's a lot more to the story, but my brother ended up, and this has nothing to do with that situation, but my brother was, when he grew up, he came out to our family that he was a homosexual. He but before that happened, he went into the military. He became an IV drug user. He became an alcoholic because he was trying to run from, he didn't choose to be a homosexual man. He did not want to be. He tried everything that he could not to be that way. But that's how I know no one makes that choice. That's not a choice or a decision. That's how he was born. And that's who he was. He got so bad into drug addiction and alcoholism that he was using more drugs than he was able to, because he got so bad, he got into prostitution, male prostitution, to be able to help cover the cost of his drugs. Mm-hmm. And he ended up owing people so much money that he could not pay for, no matter what he did for selling his body or anything like that. So he had to run away and get away from that. So that's when he came back to Maine. When he did, soon after he got back, he was diagnosed with HIV. From that point, he was 30 years old when he was diagnosed, and he passed away at age 35.
I'm so sorry to hear about that, Patty. And I, again, can empathize. I was married to a man for more than 30 years. And after he died, a week after he died, I discovered that he was a closet gay. And there were many things I couldn't understand about him throughout our marriage. And it was I always think it was the despair and unhappiness about covering up and hiding who he was. And he had been in the military, and he was a great, big, strong-looking man. He looked like what you call in America, football players. We call them rugby players. And that's who he was. So mm-hmm. I totally empathize with you and the tragedy and sadness of them dying of various diseases and things as well. So,
right. So to go back on that, Kathleen, though, Susan, the person who my mother worked, I told you she worked at the mental institution. Yes. And there was a young man at that time who was going through the theological seminary doing his internship or whatever. And he actually was a friend of my mother's and helped us move from my aunt's house when we first moved back into our house. And he became the closest thing that we had to a father. And so he became the pastor of the church that we attended for years. Well, I didn't know this, and none of us knew this. But again, my brother went away and went into the military and was away and then came home. But soon after my brother passed away, the pastor committed suicide. He jumped off the bridge. It was because it had been uncovered that he had been molesting children for years.
Oh my goodness.
And this was the closest thing that I had to a father.
And of course he was involved with your brother, so you just must have asked many questions. And so
again, at that point, again, my brother was already gone. My brother had already died, and he was gone. And yeah, so that was a very different situation.
Totally different.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on now to when you met your husband.
Okay, well, yeah. Well, actually, today is my anniversary.
Oh, happy anniversary!
Yes, thank you. And Susan, I had to kiss a lot of toads to find this prince. I really did.
Well, yes, thank you. You better tell me how to kiss a prince instead of a toad.
Yeah. Well, okay, but okay. So really, because of the childhood that I had, and everything, and because of not really having a childhood, because I was always had to be responsible for the other people in my household, and I got along better with adults than I did with children. I was much more mature always when I was a child. So that made me look outside of, and I told you, I tried to be outside the house as much as I possibly could to be away from everything. So I did get myself into circumstances and situations and relationship type of things that I probably never should have because of that. But I got married the first time to my best girlfriend's brother. And so I was 18 years old when I got married, but he had a drinking problem, and he had 2 OUIs in 2 days. He would black out drunk and not remember stuff in any. But one night he tried to get at the car. I was in the car. He had a baseball bat, and he totaled the car by smashing it with a baseball bat. If he would have gotten a hold of me, he would have killed me, and he didn't remember any of it. So that was my first husband. I've been married and divorced 3 times. So that was my first husband. My second husband put me through bankruptcy. My third husband was, by that time I had my daughter. And my third husband was very emotionally, he was a controlling man, and he was very particular and wanted things just so. We're talking in the kitchen cabinets, the can labels had to be all facing the same way. Things had to be stacked a certain way. He was very, very particular. So it took me, and I will say, Susan, it didn't take until after I got divorced that third time. I knew none of that was what I really wanted, and I had done all that I could, as much as I could myself. So I got through that third divorce, and I said, you know what? I actually had to take time, and I had to learn to know myself, like myself, and trust myself. But not only that, I had to learn to love myself. It wasn't up to anybody else. It was up to me. So when I can teach women now everything that I can do now, it's because I've walked this walk myself. I've walked my own talk. And so I had to do all that. And then I finally met the man who he's my forever husband. I am very blessed. But again, I like I said, I had to kiss a lot of toads to find that prince.
I think what happens to us so often, I mean, I can understand this because I've been married twice. The first husband, the father of my daughters, turned out to be a very heavy drinker and extremely abusive. And basically my second marriage was, well, it's in my book. It was, there were many happy times, but there were a lot of very confusing, weird times as well. So I do understand where you say you go through a process. And I've had people say to me, oh, Susan, he's been dead 5 years now. Really, look, you should be out there. And I'm nervous to do that because I realize that what we do, when we brought up in certain circumstances, is that we become enablers or facilitators, or we can call ourselves empaths or whatever it is we want. And it is a system that has to be broken. So where you say you had to get to know yourself and truly love yourself and understand yourself before you could get to the right person is exactly what I've been doing for 5 years, is to find who I am truly and my être.
Yes.
What you're doing for women is fabulous. It really is. And so many of us are conditioned to think and believe, even in this modern day, that it's go get educated, but really the most important thing is to find that person, that man, have children, and get on with it.
Right. And those are so many things that we automatically as women think that we have to be happily married. We have to have children. We have to have the house with the picket fence. We have to have this. We have to want to be pretty, and we have to, all these things, but we are so much more than that. We are so much more than that. And I tell everyone, life is so short. You don't realize how short it actually is. If you look back now, my life is like a whole different collage of many things. And what my philosophy on life, Susan, is that our life is like a jigsaw puzzle. when we're born, that puzzle is dumped out on the table in front of us here. And it's up to our parents or our guardians to help us separate the colors, put the edges, and they put the edge pieces together. And they help us, okay, this is the red colors go over here, the blues over here, whatever, and separate things so that when you're putting the picture, you're looking at the picture and you're putting stuff together, it helps to do that. So when you're little, you're picking up those pieces and some may drop on the floor. It's that adult's it's their responsibility to pick it up and put it back near where it was supposed to go. As we become teenagers, they see that puzzle piece edging over to the edge of the table. That adult's supposed to nudge it back over, just nudge it back over and whatever. Or if one falls, they encourage the youth to pick it up and put it back. But after a while, it is our responsibility to start putting those pieces together, picking them up if they fall off. It's that responsibility. But we know life happens to every single one of us, again, whether we're ready for it or not. So that puzzle, whatever you're doing that puzzle on, what do? You pick it up off the table and move it somewhere else so that you can get busy to do whatever you have to do. Well, our life is just the same way, Susan. What happens? We get busy with stuff and we put it off to the side. We put ourselves off to the side. And what I teach people is how to put all these pieces together. And what I've created with the book that I have, Living Outside the Box, that's just the tool. That is a tool to help you put those pieces together. And I have people create, and it's a 3-ring binder that I have them keep everything in so that when they get a chance to go back to work on that puzzle and back to work on their self, everything is still there that they've been working on. It's not all lost. So all the work that you've done on your life and on yourself, you can go back and refresh yourself and go right back to where you started from. It's not lost. It's there and it's inside you.
Nothing is ever lost. And each day is a new day, and it's the first day of your life. So what you're teaching is commendable. As a speaker, you say you incite action through empowerment. How do you do that?
I am let's put on our big girl panties and get to work. It's all about taking action. You can have motivational speakers that make you feel warm and glowy and happy. And I am all about positive. I am all about positive and motivation. But I'm also about, we have to take action. A goal isn't a goal unless you write it down and you put a date to it. I'm going to achieve this by this time. And unless you do that, unless you start that and take that first step, it's not going to happen. So there has to be action. And so that's why I say I incite action through empowerment. I empower people and I encourage and educate, and through all those steps. And then I am there because I've created my unparalleled. I have an unparalleled, what I call it is a peer-to-peer mentoring and accountability program. And it creates this team. You end up with your own team of cheerleaders and a support system to bounce things off one another. And it comes to a point where you really want to be there for those people as much as you want them there for you. It's your own, that again, cheerleading squad, and it's your own special team.
Your tribe.
Together, everyone achieves more. And when you have that, some people, and what I found, and this is why I've created this, is because many of us don't have, and at my point in life then, I didn't have the people around me to be supportive. People may not have those family or friends that are able to be supportive. They don't understand. I have family and friends that think I'm crazy for doing what I do because I put so much of myself into it, because they don't understand my purpose. They don't understand my passion for what I do.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. But when you have those teammates that do, it's fantastic. It is fantastic.
It certainly is. You say your mission is to help as many people from 6th graders to grown adults in retirement years to be able to learn how to get smarter goals. And that's also great. Do you go and help older people?
What I'm saying is I have people that have reached out to me and to take something that they've had as a hobby now that they've retired or everything going on with COVID, saying, I have to find a way to make some money and to use, I can't just sit and be stagnant. They need to be doing something to keep their mind engaged. So it is all about being able to take something that and make something out of what they see and what they had as a passion or a dream or goal. And it's never too late.
No, it isn't. And during COVID-19, what would your advice be to people who have lost jobs, lost incentive, and lost courage?
You need to really dig deep. And that I really, a lot of stuff that I do with people is emotionally, it's difficult because you really have to know, again, you have to know that you're worthy and you have to know that you're capable and you have to believe that. And a lot of people are having a hard time with that right now. But I always say, keep focused on your future. I can't want something more for someone than they want it for themselves. And if you've ever been a mother, you know that feeling. You want things for your children, but it doesn't matter how much you want it for them. They have to want it for themselves. And that's what, so with everything that's going on and even here in the States and everything, we can't let all the stuff that has been going on. Internationally, we've been dealing with COVID. Here in the U.S., we've been dealing with all the political stuff. And I won't even go into that. But what I will say is all the negativity and all this not knowing what's going to happen. What if, but guess what? Any of that stuff, whatever's happening is still going to happen. But what you can do is make the choices and decisions that are going to affect you most personally and start there. You need to start somewhere and start with yourself and start from within. And when I teach people, Susan, one of the big things I teach people is to learn to put themselves first. And what I mean by that is your health. So your health in general. So your physical health, your spiritual health, your emotional health, and your financial health. Do that for yourself first because you need to fill your cup to be able to give. When you're on an airplane, what do they say? Put your oxygen mask on first before you put it on anyone else. Yep. And that's the same thing. So for right now, for what everyone has been dealing with and all the negativity, the choices and decisions that we are making, we really need to focus on putting ourselves first and then going from there.
I agree with you there.
Yep. Yeah.
So wise advice.
Yeah. And again, just because the company that you worked for may no longer be in business, you may need to have, a lot of people have had to shift or pivot or change total career choices and everything. But then it's like, what is it that you've always wanted to do? What has that dream always been? Do you have dreams that reoccur and come back to you that something you wanted to do when you were a child? If you wanted to do something and that dream's coming back to you, there's probably a reason for that, and a lot of these, necessity is the mother of invention. Look at how many things can be and probably have been created during this whole pandemic. People are finding needs for these things.
Actually, it's true. I went to a creative market right in the same area where I live this last Sunday with a friend of mine. And I hadn't been to this market for some time. And I was so mind blown because the people really had started to become creative. They were no longer all the Chinese things that you find in so many market stalls all over the world. These were home crafted things. People had started to think out the box,
right,
and become the creative beings that they are. And they were beautiful things. They were There were jams and pickles and chutneys. There were beautiful crystal necklaces, things that had been sewn or crafted out of wood or driftwood. And these were all things that I remember as a child that you used to be able to find in markets. And here they are coming back again. So what you say there is exactly right. Get out that box and really start thinking in a different way.
Right, exactly. And it's all limiting beliefs. And I teach and talk about that, limiting beliefs and a belief window. When, and we get that window, and we get those things from when we're children, and we're told, oh, don't do this, don't do that, or whatever. It can be, people are afraid. And sometimes people will put limiting beliefs on you, even as an adult. They're going to say, oh, you can't do that because you're going to make a fool of yourself, or you're going to get hurt, or you're, these things. So they're saying that, trying to be protective of you, but they're actually putting their limiting beliefs on you, and they're trying to put what they think off on you. If your curiosity is strong enough, you have to have your curiosity be greater than the fears. Well, geez, what if I fail at this? What if I fail at this? Guess what? What if you don't even try? What if you don't even try? That's the way I come back at somebody with this is, how many sleepless nights are you going to have laying there saying, oh, what if I would have done that? I myself, Susan, I want to have as few could have, should have, or would have moments when on my deathbed. I don't want to be laying there, oh, I wish I would have done this. I should have done that. Or if this happened, I would have done that. Guess what? I don't want to have those could have, should have, and would haves.
I hear you there, sister. I agree.
Yeah. And I say my initials are PJG. I choose at this point in my life, and I guess it might have something to do with my age and what I've been through in life, but I choose to live my life purposely, joyfully, and gratefully. And to me, that's the perfect trifecta. Where those PJG, where that joins, say you have 3 circles, and where that joins in the middle, that little area in the middle, that's that spot of bliss. To me, that is bliss. And that's where I choose to live as much as I can every day.
Oh, I love that. I can see a book with those initials.
Yeah.
And that fairy. So I'm going to leave you with that. And right now I'm going to thank you, Patti, for being with me today on Awaken Your Mind Magic and sharing so much about yourself and your incredible achievements today. Thank you, Patti. How can the listeners contact you? And obviously, I see on your website you do have strategy calls and things. Can you let them know a bit more about this?
Sure. Actually, I'm going to give you a couple different things. If you go to www.pjg.vcardinfo.com, that's where you'll get all of my social media links. And there's a link there to book as a guest on my show. So right there for that. And if you text the word GOAL, GOAL, to 866-926-4020, I have gifts there for everybody. So
yummy.
that and the gifts, and it's seven steps to goal achievement. And so I have a coupon for ordering the book. I have, if you take these, there's assignments, and if you do assignments and send them back to me, there's 3 assignments. You complete those 3 assignments, I'll give you a free hour one-on-one consultation. So that's there, and there's some other goodies there too. But you can find out more about me at Patti-Jo, J-O, Grover, GROVER.com.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for that. And of course, I'll make sure that all the information is with your podcast when it's uploaded by my team on Awaken Your Mind Magic. Patti, thank you so much once again for being with us today. You are an absolute inspiration to women all over this world. Thank you, Patti.
Oh, thank you, Susan, so much for having me. I'm blessed to be with you.
Thank you. It's been great having you, really. That's Awaken Your Mind Magic for another week. If anything you've heard today has really impacted you and you want to know more, or you would just like to connect with me, then visit my website, awakenyourmindmagic.com, and reach out for a free one-on-one discovery session with me.
Silver on the outside, silver on the outside, gold on the inside. Silver on the outside, gold on the inside.
Tune in next week, where I'll be discussing more tools to unlock your dreams and live a limitless life that you would truly love to live. I'm Susan Kathleen, and this has been Awaken Your Mind Magic.